Hello everybody, welcome to the Forbidden Scrollery manga review. So, I feel like I really needed to read this, and I am so happy I found a way to integrate manga into my schedule, because this manga here, it really gave me more, in general, information about the series I love so much, which is Touhou. If you don't know, I love Touhou arrangements. If you want to hear the Touhou arrangements I listen to, there's a massive playlist that shows all of them on my YouTube channel. But there's also just the games in general. I'm a complete sucker for the Touhou games, and yeah, I just thought because of that it would be really relevant to see more about the universe, because I've loved Touhou for such a long time, like maybe nearly 4 years at this point, but I've never really looked into the story aside from the dialogue in the games. So I think this was really quite essential for me. This was rather different to what I was expecting this manga, because firstly, I mean, for example, it features new characters that, I don't know, they're not in the games. I've never even heard of them. I don't even know if they're in the side games. But to be fair, I've only played the mainline games from 6 to 19. And I do intend to play the PC 98 games after I've finished all the extra stages. But anyway, yeah, so we have some new characters. We have Kosuzu, obviously, probably one of the main characters of the entire story. And we have Akyu as well, Hieda no Akyu. Those are sort of the new characters that we see, and this is more sort of a story that's set in the human village, and just obviously we do fight loads of yokai, and there is a lot that is solved in terms of incidents, but it's, I don't know, it's just more, well, to be fair, when I went into this manga, I was expecting more of a story that would be similar to ones that occur in the Touhou games. I thought each story was going to be like what would happen in each game that's mainline, but no. And I'm actually really happy about that. Basically what these stories are, they're tons of mini stories, and they feature one incident or one problem that is going to be solved within the story, and they are really good, honestly. I really enjoyed them. Some of them were a bit dry, I won't deny, but others were really good. My favourite volumes are definitely Volume 6 and Volume 7, I think. I think the story just progresses, and the ideas of the plots just get better and better, and everything all comes together in Chapter 7, Volume 7. Oh my god, I read too many visual novels. But yeah, they come together really nicely, and so I think having multiple stories, obviously it's really fun, because it's just, whenever I, for example, get up in the morning, I just do my schoolwork, and then I just think I can have a nice amount of time that I can just dedicate to reading a single story, and I just think it's just really quite nice that you constantly get different content, and there's nothing you can ever predict or expect. There will always be a new incident that will take you by surprise. But the thing is, it's a blessing and yet it's a curse, because, for example, in Volume 1 or Volume 2, I just can't really remember what happens. I mean, I can't remember what happens on the top of my head. I'd actually have to go into the story and check what happens. But, I don't know, I just always like completely memorizing a plot, so for me that's not really the best thing. But, yeah, overall I think it's really nice, and, yeah, I think what my favourite part about this plot was, and just a lot of the plots in general that were in these volumes, is just how ridiculous they were, how different they were to what I was reading before. I mean, obviously, I usually read visual novels. I'm not used to reading stuff this. I mean, to be fair, there were a few, I don't know, political topics, but this stuff it's just really quite innocent. I'm just not used to reading stuff that's so innocent, and I really enjoyed it for that, but I also enjoyed it just for how extravagant everything is and how unusual the monsters are. I mean, for example, I think this is a good example. It's either in Volume, no, it's in Volume 6 actually, because of IR being there. But that ridiculous story where the Bakedanukis, in other words, Mamizo's race, they'd been, well, Aya basically exaggerated something they had done and put it in a news report. And then what Mamizo did, I think she got the Hyaki... No, wait, no, she didn't. No, I can't remember how she did it, but she somehow made it so that the Tsukumogami quite literally badmouthed the newspaper. And Tsukumogami, they could be anything. They could be household objects. Heck, my microphone could even be one. But when they're activated under the right magical conditions and yokai-related conditions, they can become really quite odd. And yeah, basically, they were living objects that were bad-mouthing a newspaper. So as a result of that, the general public would think that obviously the newspaper's doing something wrong. And I think she gets found out in the end. I can't actually remember how that one ends. But yeah, I think if that doesn't show you how ridiculous these plots are, and can I just say how ridiculous the Tsukumogami are? I mean, they are literal objects with tiny hands and legs. I just thought I had to include that. But, yeah, anyway. yeah, it was really cool. And another thing I want to talk about, while we're there, I mean, I did mention Mamizo, for example, who I'm coincidentally fighting right now. Like, I'm trying to beat her boss. I hate her fight, if I'm going to be honest. But, yeah, the characters' fights... the characters in general, they are all really quite nice. I mean, there are some that are really interesting. We don't actually see as many characters as I would expect. I mean, it obviously does make sense considering it's set in the human village. By the way, speaking of the human village, I find it really interesting that it's set there because it's just... I feel like it's more close to what we know, so we can relate to stuff more. I mean, for example, stuff like the Gensokyo power control and the unique circumstances surrounding the yokai. I mean, some of that, especially IR as well. There are relatable elements, and I like that about the human village. But yeah, because of the fact that we were in the human village, there were a few... I feel like the choice of characters was restricted a bit. Sadly, I don't exactly know too much about any of the characters. I don't know much about the Touhou backstory, or lore in general, really, so I don't know if that's normal. But to be honest, I would have just liked to see more stuff with yokai. Like, for example, the medicine peddling chapter with Reizen. I mean, I just find it so sad that we saw Reizen and yet we didn't see other IN characters. Like, I don't know, Aidin, Moko. Oh my god, that would have been cool. Moko and Kaguya in this. I mean, obviously it's in the human village, so it would be a bit ridiculous to have something in ANT, but still. What I found kind of annoying is there were sometimes, like for example in the story where 100 ghost stories were told, which really solid chapter by the way, I didn't like it that there were some characters who, they were in the story, like for example Yuko and Yomu, they were in the story and they were just in the background, and yet we never really had any information about them. They were just always there and we were never given their names. I mean, obviously, I know those characters from Touhou, and I love their fights. I genuinely love them. I don't like Yomu's fight as much as Yuko's, but Yuko's fight, easily one of my top 10s. But, yeah, it's just, I feel like I know the characters, so I had that advantage. And I love trying to spot all of the characters that I knew that weren't actually included in the story, that were just sort of in the backgrounds, really. But yeah, it's just, sometimes I had a bit of a problem with that. I also feel like this manga, it's a brilliant introduction into the Touhou universe, I won't deny that, but I feel like sometimes you're a bit detrimented if you haven't played Touhou, and if you don't really know the basic plot behind it. Like, I think if you want to experience Forbidden Scrollery in the best possible way, experience the Touhou universe, I think. But, yeah, overall, it's a really quite nice manga. And, yeah, if I'm going to be honest, it's just something really different to what I've read before. I mean, obviously, as you can see on my wall, I've read Umineko. That is, yeah, that's probably the only really supernatural plot I've read, if I'm going to be honest. Well, it's kind of supernatural and not at the same time, but yeah, you get what I mean. It's the plot I've read with the most elements of supernatural, so I mean that has a big element of supernatural, but this story here, it is just entirely supernatural, so I'm happy about how different of a read it was, and honestly I would recommend it. And yeah, I think definitely overall though, my favorite volume, volume 7 easily. The last chapter in this, the chapter where, well, not only Kosuzu's journey of self-discovery and journey of discovery about the truth of the human village and what yokai truly are, and well, the truth of the village in general, actually. It reminded me of a certain plot that I have mentioned that is also supernatural. It really, really did. But yeah, I loved so many things about just not only the development of Kosuzu, but also that story where she gets captured by the Hyakiyako, well, the massive beast. It looked like a goat that had manifested through the power of the Tsukumogamis. I mean, that was a really nice send-off, and it was just so interesting to see not only the main characters. They're always usually they find an incident and then they solve it, and obviously 9 times out of 10 it's really, really creative as well, which is awesome. But yeah, it's just in this we had not only miscalculations, we were thrown everywhere, and we were just not knowing what to believe, and in the end, especially Yukari's true intentions as well, I really enjoyed reading about those, and I just loved seeing how everything ended for Kosuzu as well. It was really nice. And I think last thing I want to mention before I go is just the characters in general. I think I really, really loved how, for example, Mamizo and Aya, you could never know when to trust them and when not to trust them. For example, Marisa and Reimu, I mean, you always knew that they would be good. Actually, no, you didn't. Reimu, for example, there were times where she did... I remember there was this one time where she tried to twist something so that it would look bad on the Bake Danuki, and obviously Mamizo would be detrimented as a result. But, yeah, you can just never tell when the characters are good and evil, because I thought instinctively when Aya was going to join, I knew nothing about the Tengu, so I thought that everything was going to be really, really twisted, and the entire truth and the meaning of truth in Gensokyo would just, well, not Gensokyo, sorry, the human village would just totally crumble. Right. My last part, this, I love this. I love this. This page where my fingers are waving about. I love it. It's basically a contents page that not only explains the origins of the characters' names in Japanese, but it also explains any contextual and Japanese related things that are explained in the book. And I think stuff like that, and just in general, the usage of so many things that are related to Japanese culture, I think it just provides you with such an interesting read, because you're not only learning about everything that's going on within the story, but you're learning about Japanese culture as well. It's really nice, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed my little discussion about it, and yeah, thanks for watching.